get this rolling. Let's see what happens.
What time do we have to go downstairs?
Okay, so we're starting our new live stream at 5:30 p.m. Let's see how it's working out here. Let me just let everyone know on YouTube that the live stream has started again. All right. So, what has happened since we left? Well, we've warmed up, thankfully. Along the coast, we have temperatures rising into the mid 30s now and changing over to rain, going down to Atlantic City and down into Delaware. We have a mix of snow and sleet in Philadelphia, and we're seeing a changeover also being reported over the north shore of Long Island. We're also seeing winds coming in from the east and northeast. I think that's going to shift to the southeast over time. Basically, this is mostly because we have that weak area low pressure off of the coast, but it's really not having a huge impact as far as the warming in the atmosphere. Now, I know that there's some people out there who are trying to compare what's happening now to the HRR guidance, which, it's not a bad practice. Clearly that the HRR guidance was too warm. Problem is that isn't what's been based on my forecast, so it really doesn't have impact on my thoughts as far as what's evolving here. And the reason why is because I already went with a pretty significant ice event here anyway. So what we have here right now is that our freezing line is pushing inland. We can see that very nicely on the surface map here. We have that weak area low pressure that's sitting off the Delmarva coast. That's going to continue to lift northeast and really not have too much of an impact on the forecast overall. Meanwhile, we have plenty of cold air locked in over the interior here, and the warm air is winning the fight as expected pretty easily right along the coast. It's when it pushes into the interior that's when things start to get messy, because that's when we're going to get prolonged sleet and freezing rain along the Delaware River and westward throughout eastern Pennsylvania and up towards the Hudson River Valley and portions of northwestern Connecticut. At 925 millibars, we're seeing a very healthy push of warm air now driving in. We're having a nice low-level jet. Oh, we just got new data come in. Look at this. Anywhere from 30 to, I've seen one point as much as 50 knots coming in off the Atlantic Ocean and from the south. Here it is, right around 50 knots here. And that is a very strong warm transport setting up from the Atlantic right into the coastal plain. And you can just see this intense thermal gradient setting up at 9 to 25 millibars. What that basically means is that you're having plenty of lifting developing all throughout the northern mid-Atlantic from the New Jersey coast northward. Now, again, it's very warm down here over southern New Jersey already and pushing into central New Jersey, which is why we're seeing the mixing. But at the surface, we're still pretty chilly. So the fact that the air temperatures are just starting to rise into the mid-30s, while these temperatures would support, let's say, the lower 40s if they were brought down to the surface, is pretty telling as far as the potential for freezing rain and sleet setting up throughout the interior regions. The main point here I wanted to really drone in on is that although the temperatures are rising, be careful of your back roads and untreated roadways and anywhere where there's been a bit of a shade. And the reason why I say that is that even along the coast, you're going to get those slick spots even as temperatures are rising steadily. So it's something to certainly keep an eye on as we move forward. 850 millibars, that warm air transport is just starting to take hold, but notice it's not as strong yet as what we see at 925 millibars. That strong low-level jet's still down here in Virginia, but it's pushing northward. And in fact, look at this new data just came in. Look at that, 50 knots. So the point here I'm trying to make, the warm air is winning the fight. It's not a colder storm. I know there's rumors floating around of a worse ice storm. Honestly, a quarter to a half an inch ice. That's bad enough. I don't think we need to go any more worse as far as the setup. And I don't see any support anywhere of us going over a half an inch ice in eastern Pennsylvania, considering this warm air transport. If you had a surface high, let's say sitting over Maine, the primary surface high, let's say a 1040 millibar high sitting over Maine, totally different story. But we don't have that set up at all. And then at 850 millibars, I wanted to show this is the frontal genesis that's setting up. That's basically where we see all the lifting developing. The water vapor satellite picture hasn't changed all that much. We have that weak surface low off the Virginia coast. And look at all of this moisture being driven up the east coast. And that's going to eventually move through our region. Now, one really cool thing here is that the bulk of the intense heavy rainfall is at first going to lift up to the west of the region, which means we're going to get a break in the rainfall tomorrow morning, more of a scattered nature, and then the wall of rain marches through tomorrow afternoon, and that could produce anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rain. So here's our latest radar. You can see on IntelliCast, it's pushing northward. Warm air is winning the fight. It's pushing northward and driving into Ocean County, heading towards Monmouth County, pushing through southern New Jersey, pushing basically north and west towards the New York City metro, towards the Philadelphia metro. But before we get to that rain, we're going to have to be dealing with an icy mess throughout this evening. I'll have another live update around 6:30 to 7 p.m. We'll see how the latest observations have changed and see if there's anything to be concerned about as far as anything worse with this storm. So far, everything's pretty much going as planned. And again, in case you forget, because, some people forget, this is the forecast that we have in place. Now, what I'm expecting is that this changeover is pretty much taking over as expected. And we got maybe a little bit more than an inch of snow, maybe an inch and a half of snow in some locations, as much as 2 inches, which was a bit of a surprise, but not too much, over portions of southern New Jersey. But other than that, this forecast is pretty much going as planned. Look for 2 to 4 inches of snow before you change over portions of Hartford back towards the western suburbs of Philadelphia, and then up to as much as 6 inches in Lancaster, Hershey, Scranton. That's at the worst case scenario. That's if the cold air really hangs on 850 millibars and really produces a nice little burst of heavy snow. Most locations would most likely be around that 3-inch mark. And then the real concern here, a quarter to a half an inch of ice. This is where your ice storm is. This is where if I was running things, I'd have winter storm warnings out, because this is nothing to joke around with. If you are in Scranton, Hershey, Lancaster, York, if you are in northwestern New Jersey even just north and west of Philadelphia, even a tenth of an inch of ice is still a big deal here. If you're in northeastern New Jersey, stay off the roads until tomorrow morning, and then things start to warm up. We get some treatment out there, and conditions improve. That is your live coverage of the winter storm for President's Day. Not exactly the President's Day storm I was expecting a couple of weeks ago, but hey, it's still a winter storm. So thank you for following on our live coverage, and as always, stay safe out there.